Welcome to another episode of Out Loud
and Laughing.
Get ready.
I'm Bryan.
And John, two gay cousins having big talks and even bigger laughs. Join us. Let's see what they're up to. It's Out Loud and Laughing.
Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud and Laughing. I am Bryan.
And I am John.
And we are here to talk. How are you, John?
We are here to entertain you with our boring stories.
It gives us joy, you know?
It brings me joy. I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
You're doing well.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
good. I was
What
just
were
going
you
to say,
gonna say?
like, I feel like I'm saving so much money on my therapy bill because I don't have to do it anymore. I just talk with you, you know?
I just changed the cadence of my therapy from once a week to once every 2 weeks, and I got my timing off. So last week I went into my therapist's office on a day that I wasn't supposed to be there, and she was, "Oh," and then she texted me and she says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I said, I'm filming a pod this weekend, so I've got my therapy right there."
I thought
She
you were going to
started laughing.
say the complete opposite and be like, "Oh, actually now since we started this podcast, I need therapy twice a week."
Maybe that's the way it feels, and I'm just pretending. I'm masking, as she would say.
I love
Oh
that.
my
How's the
gosh.
week going,
Well,
John?
the week is going good. You know, you were just making me think about twice a week therapy. And you know, given all the things that you and I have experienced alike in our life, from like the kind of schools we went to and stuff, like I feel like 3 times a week therapy might be in order. But in regards to this week and in comparison to all of that, we're good.
We're good. I agree. We have way too many therapy-like themes that we can work through, you know, especially in our childhood. But like funny things,
I
you
mean,
know. It's nothing
I
traumatic.
think
It's just funny.
nothing traumatic. No, and that's exactly right. Because I was gonna say it's not like everybody doesn't have these stories, and I think that's what's fun about this, right? It's like it's all relatable. I know that your mom and my mom tell us stories about like literally walking in the snow. Granted, they were raised in Louisiana, so I think they're confused. But no, I'm kidding. I'm sure there was light dustings, you too, but it wasn't like trudging through like the Minnesota tundra, like to go get your mail. You know?
That's so funny. Yeah, I know. Between Cuba and New Orleans, and then California and Florida, I'm not sure the snow was really happening. But hey,
Well, and
I
our
believe the
stories will
stories.
never top theirs. And our stories will never top theirs.
Love a good top story. Uh,
Oh, I see what you did there.
yeah, you know. No, I agree. I think we always talk about how like you and I had like parallel paths of life, and so I think it's so interesting that like a lot of these things kind of resonate and like carry over. Like again, like you and I both went to private school. Like, and
Yep.
it was two totally different private schools. But the funny fact is they were both Lutheran. So like Lutheran small private schools. How many of those were there really in Florida? Actually a lot. And you and I both went. Our moms both worked there. So like I don't know, we have some interesting like parallels from
I
growing up.
I have a memory about our schools like being sister schools, or was it just by proxy or something? Because they were both in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know.
No, it's true. I mean, there weren't many. Like we all played each other in all of our sports. So
We
like
did.
there was almost that overlap there. Like I think like I played volleyball, I remember. So I went to a school called Faith Lutheran. John went to one called Trinity Lutheran. So where's the creativity here? And there was probably like 4 or 5 other ones. I remember playing volleyball, and on the weekends we all met up at one of the schools and we all played each other. And so there was just I don't know, there was like the incestuous. We saw each other every weekend, and it was weird.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say even our schools were incestuous.
Maybe worse than
everything in our
lie.
life, everything in our life has been incestuous. Um, all right, I got to go back to therapy. I can't finish this. No, I'm just
This is already uncovering so much.
it's already uncomfortable. No, but no, you're right. We did. We you know, it was everything. It was Christmas play. like I don't know, fall festivals, sports. We had like double the obligations because we would go to each other's.
Yeah. Oh, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my mom, fun fact, was her first year of teaching was at this school. She taught preschool, kindergarten, preschool. So she was with the little ones, and I was in her first class. And
Wow, I had forgotten about that fact.
and so she was paid very little, but she was able to work at the same school that we went to. We were able to go there for free, and she was able to do summers with us, bring us home, bring us to school. We were in the exact same schedule as her. So she made that sacrifice to work in the system just to be closer to us. And so that's our story as to where we went and why we went to our school. I think your story is a little
Well,
different.
it is, and what I find really interesting, really quickly, I want to double click on your mom's and yours experience. Two
Yeah,
things
yeah.
out of there. One, what a unique thing, right? I don't know many mother and sons that can say that they've shared that experience of being in that environment together.
Yeah.
I think there's something unique there, but then also how smart of your mom, right? Like understanding today how much childcare costs.
Oh
She
my
was
God.
there like free and making money. So it's like win-win, cha-ching, cha-ching, bay.
And that tuition she didn't have to pay. So we were privileged
Exactly.
and preppy, you know?
And then I think our parents just across the board inspired each other's parenting. Your parents to mine, my parents to yours, things
Yeah.
that we did differently or similarly. But I think there was a lot of that in the decision making around going to private school. But then also similarly, my mother also worked at my private school. She was our Spanish teacher. Um, and so we went there at either like reduced or free lunch. I don't know what I don't know what our tuition was. But we went there. And I went from fourth grade until no, I went there from fourth grade until maybe sixth grade.
Yep.
I got kicked out of private school. Like kicked out slash pulled out slash I left on my own, but not much has changed.
Oh my God. I just thought like our father who aren't in detention. He-
Oh my god, yes, that's so smart. So
you
much trouble.
Oh my God, that's like a badge of honor though. Continue. I actually forget why you got kicked out.
Well, my mom, love her so much. She is opinionated and she speaks her mind, and some people don't. Some people find that a little off-putting, and they just can't handle the truth,
He's
whatever it is.
Cuban.
Uh, she's Cuban, and good for her. Like, keep doing you, mom. Like, I support you 100. Um, you've gotten me out of some shit, so thanks. But including this, really, because she really kind of took my side. So there was a fifth grade teacher there, and I was in the classroom and I was talking, sure, taking full accountability. And she asked me to be quiet, and I did it again. And somebody else it was like me and three other people. But she basically said, I'm going to go get your mom and tell her to come get you. And I said, you wouldn't do that to any of the other students in this classroom. So please treat me the way you would treat everybody else. And she said, Mr. Ruiz, leave my classroom. And I said, suck my dick. I don't know where it came out of. It flew out of my mouth faster than I could have thought. And I knew at that point, like, that was it for me. And I did get in trouble, but I remember the principal saying something like, I am your shepherd, and you are our sheep, and you must follow your shepherd. And I literally looked at my mom. I said, I got to go back to public school. This is getting a little ridiculous. I don't want to be a sheep.
That's funny. I mean, you only lasted 3 years, which where's the lie?
Tracks.
I was yeah, exactly. I was from preschool all the way to eighth grade. So I remember,
Yeah.
yeah, I was because my mom, yeah, I was there that whole time. So I remember, I mean, you and I weren't, you were probably cooler than me in elementary school. I wasn't. I was actually not cool at all. And I remember like it was fifth grade and I was getting picked on all the time by this one kid. And my mom knew it. And this kid's mom also worked at the school. I remember this kid, his name was Mitch. So Mitch, if you're listening. And so I remember he would always like tease me and
This is how we're
stuff.
getting you back, Mitch. This is how we're getting you back.
So I
Cancel
remember
culture, Mitch.
because we were cancel Mitch. And so I remember there was a moment in fifth grade where I can tell he was behind me making faces. And like he was like doing things like giving me probably bunny ears and stuff. And when you're in fifth grade, like that stuff's very serious, John. And so I remember I just took my arm and I just swung and hit him so hard from behind me that he like fell and like I really hurt him. And so I got in trouble. So I also got my detention. I didn't get kicked out. And my mom was like mad at me because she also got called in because she was literally down the hall. And then we got in the car and she turned around and she says, "I'm so proud of you."
I love that story.
She was like, "He's been picking on you. He hasn't stopped. And we've tried everything. And so you did what you needed to do." And in that moment, I was like, my mom plays fair. She's like, and she always has it to today. She's like, I will give you a pass, but cross me twice and it is done. And I love that story because I was like, cool. I actually saw my mother as like a person in that moment because
Wow.
she was just like, no, no, good for you. I can't say that in front of my colleagues and I can't say that at school because you shouldn't have hit him. But there you go. And so I remember that's like probably one of my weirdly one of my strongest memories from going to elementary school or private school.
I love that both of them are so closely tied to almost like a core memory to your mom. That's really cool. God, I love
Yeah.
your mom. I love our moms.
I mean, Mother's Day
They're
just
cool
passed.
moms.
We can have that love.
It's
Um,
it's still on my brain.
I mean, it should be 24/7. There are mothers. Uh,
That's
I'm
fair.
trying to think. So what was interesting for me is a lot of my classes were small, right? And I think you experienced that too, because these private schools weren't that big. So I remember my classes were usually 15 to 20 kids, and a lot of them that I went to preschool with, I graduated eighth grade with. But I remember that my school, I don't know if you experienced this actually, my school was losing students just because, I don't know, people weren't paying for private school that much back then, or it was too expensive. And I remember that they were consolidating classes. So my eighth grade year, the seventh grade class was also in our classroom. So our teacher split
That
his
started
time.
happening for us too.
Yeah, and it was like when you look back at it, you're like, see, I only got half the education. But no, when he taught eighth grade history to both classes. And then the next year, he taught seventh grade history to both classes. But things like math and stuff, he would split the class up, right? It was a very weird, interesting thing. And I'm honestly surprised that that's even legal. But yeah.
Yeah, that happened also for us too. I think that was probably a factor to, I think the story that I told, I'm not sure that I got kicked out. I think it was like there were so many other factors where like I just
Mhm.
decided to go back to public school. But it made me wonder, and because I was trying to think of like what would be interesting for, somebody outside of this conversation to consider. And my question to you is this: having gone your entire early education through the private school system or just the private school, did you ever like wonder what it would have been like to be in public school? Did you ever miss it? Do you have memories like back then of like what it felt like being a kid who was in private school versus public school? Like what was that experience like? Do you remember?
100%. I feel like, and thank you for that question, John. That's so thoughtful of you.
Thanks.
No, I think it definitely crossed my mind all the time because like you and your sister were in public school for a while. I think the biggest thing at the time, because the smallest things are so big at that age, um, honestly was like I was always in plaid and you were able to wear what you wanted. So the clothing thing was always hard for me because I hated wearing a uniform. Now looking back as like a parent now, I'm like, oh, it's so much easier. Like the kid can just you don't have to like think about it in the morning. Your child wears almost the same thing. But I just remember like you don't really have an identity, right? Which
I
is by
was
design.
just thinking that's kind of mean,
It's
right? Like
by
you're like, just because I don't
design.
want to think about you. Yeah.
It's kind of mean, but it's not because then kids can't pick on each other for clothing and stuff, right? It limits what they
That's a
can
good
pick
point.
on. So I see it from like an adult standpoint, but from a kid standpoint, you're like, I see these things on TV. I want to wear this. And so I think that was the biggest thing. And then also, since you got kicked out and then you went to middle school, but right before high school, you had friends going into high school where I had none. And I know we talked about high school a while back on like, I sat with your sister for 2 weeks, but this is why I didn't have anyone going into I graduated with my 8th grade class was 18 kids. And then you and I went to this high school that had what, 2,500 students? So
Yeah, it
like,
was a lot.
talk about like a shock, right? And not even the good kind of shocker. So it was a little
No,
tough.
no fingers all in. Yeah.
No fingers left untouched.
No fingers left untouched. Yeah, I had that experience when I left private school. So it was probably fifth grade. So sixth grade is when I started. No, seventh grade is when I started public school. Um, Again, so it was 3 years. And so a really good girlfriend of mine also left. Which was really like talking back to your point about like more kids leaving when I left and then my girlfriend left. Her mom also worked at the school. So like parents were seeing employees taking their students out. So the optics weren't that great either. But because of that, like my I had a buffer going
Yeah.
from private school to public school because her and I would walk to school every morning together. We were sort of like from she and I were friends through middle school into high school and like until I got into student government and when I was really into drama at first, she was my friend group. And so it wasn't until like maybe sophomore year that I started to integrate otherwise. But you're thinking about that whole like progression of just early education and the relationships that you form and experiences that you have and I don't think it matters whether you're like in public or private. I think some of the biggest lessons I've learned have been from some like angels along the way, some key educators who have just been not only great teachers, but then also great humans who like taught
Hmm.
like good morals and stood with integrity. I have a couple of those in my history too, and they were both in and out of like both institutions. So
I mean, and I even like can today name like a ton of friends that I still am connected with on like social media. Like there's Ashley, there's Amy, there's Shayna, there's all these people that were just you just I grew up with them, and it's so interesting that they all share that same kind of bond and path. And you have the same names too. Feel free to name them because then we can get them to listen
yeah,
to this pod.
well,
You know,
she already does. It's Christina. It's our girlfriend of mine, Alex. I haven't talked to her in many years, but we've stayed connected. Joanne, she was
yeah.
Christina's mom, and she was, a good dear friend to mine and my family. And then I
Oh
was able to
yeah.
see her a few years ago. So yeah, the connections were deep, and I can't say that I had that of any, elementary public school friends.
Right, 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 right. So yeah, I think it was a good time for you and I. I will say before we wrap this up is there was one thing that stressed me out the most going to private school, and that was the fact that we had to memorize everything. Do you remember when we were going in to doing our Christmas pageants, how many things we had to remember and recite weeks leading up to make sure we got grades passed? So like it was like you have to memorize this verse this week, and then next week is the next verse, and then this poem, and then this prayer, all for this pageant. It was stressful.
Yeah, yeah, we did a lot of that. It's funny. Like, I actually really enjoyed that stuff. I was like,
Oh,
yes,
you would.
give me my
You
script.
yeah, give me what Ezekiel 4:16. I'm in.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna go over there for hair and makeup, or
John, I saw the
just
teachers
a
at your
robe,
school.
just a robe. Got it. Okay.
Are you kidding? You love that robe. And I also know the teachers that you went to school with, and they were not doing hair and makeup. Fun fact for everyone listening: John had a teacher, likely the one that he told to, suck whatever. Uh, is she would wear flip flops, and I remember the flip flops were 3 different colors when she bought them, and then by end of year it was one color because she was so big that the sandal flattened. Tell me,
Oh
where's the lie in that?
God. There's no lie. There's no lie. It's so sad. I mean, like knowing shows like Hoarders and stuff exists, like people's like ailments come like forward. And I think she was a hoarder. They ate like fast food every night. Like even their minivan, like you couldn't open it up. Like, one time I
Oh,
think oh yeah, I think one time we like field tripped and she drove and it was it was like getting into a hamster cage.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
gross.
mean,
It was gross.
I'll say a prayer
But then,
tonight
yes, her flip flops. But yes, let's all say a prayer for her
for
tonight.
her sandals, not
But
her.
I know. She actually had two sons. One of them was like really awkward, and the
Yeah.
younger one was too young to like. I think we were like 5 years apart or something. But like, I saw him on Facebook when I was in college, and I was like, "What? He like went to the
Oh.
military. He got all buff. He was like,
Oh,
Shh.
see, it's that trauma turns into a glow up. I'm telling you.
I'm trying to make like I'm trying to make a rhyme there. I can't come up with anything, but I like a trauma to a glow up.
Oh, listen,
A
you
blow
could
up to a blow up to a glow up.
that's a fail.
No, that's a fail.
Well, you could take us kids out of private school, but the fears and the memorization is all very real for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I thank you, Brian, for being so vulnerable and sharing your memorization fears with us.
You're welcome. I really let my guard down for everyone on this podcast. And PSA, for anyone else having the same issue, please comment below and we'll have a phone call about it.
We can give you tips and tricks on how you can memorize easier.
Yeah,
Flashcards.
it's called cheating. Writing it on your
Yeah,
hand.
yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
All right.
Well, I'm glad those days are behind us, and I'm glad we are where we are today. We made it. We made it.
We made it. I'm going to go try and fit on one of my old school uniforms to see if I'm skinny enough.
I'm gonna go read the Bible. Oh, I'm actually gonna go roll a joint with Bible paper. Is what I meant to say. All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.